Hey guys, it's Reese from Threes to Wound here, and you may notice I'm a little bit unwell. After 2.5 years of dodging it, I've got the Rona. The COVID has caught up with me, but that won't stop me from doing a quick little video just to give you guys an update about how my Warp Coven challenge is coming. You may know this guy.
Hi, I'm Ben, I like Kill Team, and I want to talk about it.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Stop it. All right, we get it. He's a great guy. But he released his video on time and on schedule earlier in the week, so you guys got a good idea of where his kill team was at. And as you can tell, I'm a little bit behind. By the way, if you haven't watched his video yet, please do go check it out. I'll put a link somewhere. It'll be there for you guys to check it out. It's a cracker. It looks like his kill team's coming along very well. He's trying to pump mine up, he's trying to throw a bit of shade, positive shade out there where he's trying to make it sound like I'm killing it, when in reality, this is a video from my bed, and this isn't even OnlyFans. It's gone all pear-shaped here. So, let me go to some overlay so you don't have to keep looking at me in this weird position, but we can talk a little bit about what my kill team is and what I've been up to. So, because I've been stuck in bed the last couple of days, I haven't had a huge amount of time to do much modeling. Lucky last week was really, really productive, and I've got to do a whole bunch of stuff here that I'm going to sort of run you through. I took the White Dwarf magazine that had all the Warp Coven stuff in it, and basically I got some dice and I started rolling them. For myself, I'm trying to build not an entire 20-man roster, but a pretty versatile roster that can do a little bit of everything. So, to that end, I've got about, I think it's 15 or 16 operatives in my team. They need names, they need a story, they need a base of operations, and this is the sort of stuff I'm using to guide my modeling with them. I'm a huge fan of the 30k 1,000 Suns before anything went wrong. I'm not saying Magnus was wrong, I'm saying before anything went wrong, before the galaxy got complicated, when the golden light of the Great Crusade was all there, sunshine, lollipops, emperor, etc. It was really, really good. So the tact I'm taking with my kill team for this is, I guess I've maybe gone a bit too deep with my story, but go with me here. Magnus, obviously being the fact that he did nothing wrong when Prospero was in trouble, sent the fleets away, let the attack be a big surprise. But sooner or later, the 1,000 Suns are out and about. We're going to find out about this. A lot of them were taken to the planet of sorcerers after it all happened. But I like to think not everyone, got to go where they needed to go so easily. The crew of my ship, hearing about what was happening at Prospero, made all speed to get back there to get to Magnus's side for the decisive battle, and they headed into the warp. And due to these, the changes of time and dimensions and issues in the warp, this bunch of 1,000 Suns didn't make it there on time. They arrived quite a while after Prospero had already been burned, and of course, Magnus was already gone. So, they had to begin their own journey through the warp, trying to find their way to the new home, the planet of sorcerers. But things continued to go pretty pear-shaped for these guys. They were having a really rough time, and they've basically been trapped floating in and out of the warp for, right now, unknown reasons of why they can't get where they want to go. And of course, the longer they spend in the warp, the more it's affecting them and it's affecting their crew. Best place to start is a name for your team. So after I rolled for this, we got the Scholastica of Fire. So, hey, there's going to definitely be some idea of fire in this kill team. There's going to definitely be some flames of some form. And as mentioned, being lost in the warp and stuck on a ship for a long time, they obviously needed a base of operations. So instead of rolling for this, I did decide, I came up with my own basically. I did my own research and found some sort of art inspiration stuff for some cool different little, 1,000 Sun ships. And then I actually rolled dice for, the name of the kill team, and then applied that to the name of the strike cruiser that they're aboard. So say hello to the strike cruiser, Covidiad's Coven. I think that's pretty appropriate. Sounds pretty cool. Don't know what it means. Sounds great. I also picked the squad quirks and also the background for these guys. So obviously, the one I thought was the most appropriate with these guys was Warriors Out of Time. Because I just think that's basically that they've been lost in the warp. They're still kind of, your Heresy era Marines, but they've spent, a very long time, lifetimes, generations, lost in the warp trying to get to this planet of the sorcerers. And for some reason, they can't do it. They've been running out of supplies. They've had to scavenge, pirate, fight demons of the warp. They've had a really rough time going through that, and this has actually taken a big effect on their character and how they play for me in the game. For the squad quirk, we went Ghosts of the Warp, and this sort of talks about them being a bit in and out of their corporeal forms, and I guess I kind of wanted to lean into this a little bit with them not necessarily being rubric Marines, but actually more being, because they've spent so long in the warp, there actually are, I guess, all a little bit warp saturated, and as their numbers have dwindled, we're down to these last, 10 or so Marines of this once proud company. And while they were journeying through the warp, their powers were all awoken, so none of them were actually affected by the, turning of all his dust into the armor. But to represent, I guess, those effects on the battlefield, we're still seeing that these guys have that quirk, goes to the warp, so they are still affected by it. The other creative choice I went with here was also for my Zangors to not be Zangors, but to actually be crew that have slowly started to be affected by the warp. So we're talking about for these mortal crews, unlike the Astartes, they have short lifespans. So basically what we're seeing now in these, I guess, Zangor cultists is that these are like second, third, or even fourth generation of this crew. The Thousand Sons on board have had less and less time for them, and they've sort of developed their own sort of cult of Magnus, if you will. They all sort of see him and revere him now as their god, and basically for them, their sign for Magnus is the 8-pointed star, but to them it's the Eye of Magnus, and you'll see it also in the Zench signs there as well. There's a common motive amongst the crew, so basically this is, I guess, a crew that's not realizing they're worshipping the dark gods. They're actually quite in the dark about what's happening in the wider galaxy. All they know is that they're being put through these trials and tribulations, and they've, I guess, created their own religion and way of dealing with the warp and being lost in it for so long by creating their own, I guess, protective spirits. You can also see all of them are wearing those gold masks, and so I'm kind of thinking they're a bit more like a spiritual thing. They're more like to keep away the evil of the warp by wearing these gold, I guess, spooky, terrifying masks. So they're kind of embracing the dark to survive it. The other thing I added as well was that basically the cultists all their weapons and war gear over all this time have been, breaking down, running out of ammo. So I chose not to give any of them auto pistols or any gun type things, but a few of the models had them. So I actually painted them up like gold. So they're more actually like relics of the Forgotten Age or passed down from generation to generation, as opposed to being actual weapons for the game. I rolled up names for all the different characters, and you can see here rolling through some of the different data cards, and it may pigeonhole these sorcerers a little bit, but I have chosen to model them to what powers I kind of want to take to them, because I just kind of like having, I guess, sometimes it being a bit more thematic versus necessarily what is the best or most playable option in the game. So the 3 sorcerers I've got my flying sorcerer there, and basically this guy's job is to, as the name would suggest, fly around and just be a real nuisance, using things like Flux Blast to get up the board early, and then he's also going to have the Stave and the Kopesh to get into close combat and wreck some face. I've then got my Flamer Sorcerer, and basically his job is to get in range and use that little Warp Hand Flamer to cause havoc, also using the Psychic powers there to give that an even bigger boost and make that a bit more dangerous. The last of the sorcerers is my Tank Man, and I've used, as you can see here, Scarab Occult Terminator. So he's going to be rocking the 4-up invulnerable save, and this guy's, I guess, my backline bandit. He's going to be hanging at the back of the board, tying up the key objectives at the back, and then when he needs to, he'll push down that board and be a late game face wrecker. We've got the other key models here. We've also got our Icon, we've got a Flamer, Soul Reaper, 2 Bolters. So that's a pretty versatile mix of all the different Marines, and basically this is just kind of so I can mix and match and try some different loadouts and different ways to play them as per game. As I said, there's obviously definitely some optimal ones, but I want to have a bit of fun and try some different guys. To build all the different sorcerers, I didn't quite use Ben's ultimate trick of being able to actually create them, because that's awesome, and spend $8 on his entire list. Really put me to shame on that one. Thanks, mate. But I did do some scrounging and put different bits and pieces, and basically, I guess, I just did a bit of kit bashing between kits. So you can see some of the sorcerers there. I just mix and match, and I've just made small changes to each of the models just to personalize them and make sure that they embody those powers. For my Zangor or Zangor cultists, however you want to look at them, I basically used all the Zangor, swords and shields to basically, and took off all the weapons from the cultists that were not appropriate or they couldn't be armed with. I wanted to use them always as close combat too with just the Zangor blades. I'm not really interested too much in them having the auto pistol. I think it's a little bit of a waste. I think they're just there to get in and do some punching on. And I made sure again for this roster that I've got the main ones. I've got an icon, I've got the musician or the horn blower, however you want to look at it. I've got the champion, and then I've just got some regular guys. So enough wiggle room there to try out some different combinations and to find the best way to make them work. I'm not the best modeler with all this stuff, but I did do my best to, give them a little bit of character, and using the cultists from the Blackstone Fortress add-on, and then using the Zangor bits and pieces. I really think it came across pretty effective, and really does tie into that, maybe once quite proud and glorious cultist slowly getting a bit more darker and more. But I mean, the icon bearer literally has the icon stabbed into his back, so I mean, I'm not sure if that's part of the Imperial Creed, but then again, they've got some pretty weird stuff too. I've only just begun the painting phase of things. I've been doing a lot of tests. So I started with doing some different cultists, and I've done a little bit of color theory stuff. I kind of went a bit harder on this than I usually do. A lot of the time I just kind of throw some paint at it, make it up as I go along. But I really wanted to make sure that the Marines and the cultists all tie in really, really well together. So I'm using the classic Thousand Suns color scheme, including it being more like the metal red as opposed to just a traditional flat red. So using a bit of contrast, you can probably see there, lots of gold on it as well. And then I'm wanting that to tie across into my cultist as well. So just tried out a few different complementary colors and things like that on the cultist models to make sure that they've got some tie-in while still having a little bit of their own character. One of the things I was playing around with as well was I really wanted to do something with the skin tone of the cultists as well, to sort of show that they had been, I guess, in the warp for a long time, or that even that because they did see Magnus more as like a deity kind of thing or a god, then maybe they'd, paint their skin or add some red tone to their skin as well as part of, I guess, their protection or warding of themselves in the warp. And you can probably see it there on the darker, it's like a darker skin tone with like red highlights through it. So I kind of like that. I'm not 100% sold just yet. I'm still having a little bit of a play working out those skin tones, but I'll definitely get there. And I've sort of just painted, you can see here's one of my Marines painted up, ready to go, who I think looks really, really cool for a rough, quick, test paint job, and looking pretty good alongside the cultist with another bit of a test there as well. I'm sorry this video's been so short, guys. Yeah, as I said, I'm not necessarily 100%, but I am on the bounce back. In the meantime, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who has been painting their models and tagging both Ben and I on Instagram. I'm doing my best to try and make sure I'm sharing them as they're going up. There's some really cool stuff. Don't be afraid, even if you're jumping on late or if you've already got a really cool Warp Coven Kill Team, tag us. We'd love to see it. We'd love to get any inspiration off you guys as well. As always, please make sure you like, subscribe. I won't put my big fat face back on the screen here because, yeah, it's a bit weird. But I'll have a video out next week. One of my tactical battle reports will be up, and the week after will be the conclusion to this. So I've got to get better, and I've got to do some painting. So as always, guys, thank you so much for the support. We'll see you next time on 3 to Wound.